So can you see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Uminder, you are attending the classes or not? Uminder?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Okay. So last time we were discussing multi-axial fabric. We have discussed the manufacturing and the machine used to produce multi-axial fabric. Few things are left in this, particularly the properties and application of multi-axial fabric. So as we have discussed in this fabric, the yarns are disposed of in different direction and in a different manner. So there are two things. It's not just interlacement, like in normal fabric it is warp over weft or weft over warp. We call it interlacement. It is a different kind of interlacement here, and it is not just orthogonal warp and weft. There are 4 threads, as you can see here in example, and the threads are in almost 45 degrees to each other. So these two things, the first one, because of special interlacement, there is a structural stability. The yarn does not slip at the crossover points. And second one, isotropic structure, because it's not that properties you get only in warp or wave direction, you will get the fabric property in all the direction. Because of these two speciality, compared to conventional woven structures, this fabric has a different properties and applications. The first one is shear strength. As you know, shear strength means during shear test, the fabric is subjected to a tangential load at the edge of the fabric. In conventional woven structure, the yarn gets slide. That means slippage takes place because of the tangential load. In this case, the slippage is prevented. Okay. Second one, in this fabric, practically there is no traditional type of interlacement warp over weft, as you can see here on the top, which happens in a conventional fabric, which introduces crimp in the yarn. And as you know, introduction of crimp means decrease in modulus. In this weaving, the yarns are straight, as you can see here, the lower diagram. At the crossover points, they are only entangled in the manner which I have shown you earlier. Today also I will show you subsequently. And this results the yarn disposition in a straight path. That means yarn properties are fully utilized to withstand the applied force. So that is the logic why this yarn, because of low crimp, gives high modulus. So the first point is stable structure, and you can see here how structural stability is obtained. So this is how these 4-thread weaving multi-axial fabric is obtained because of the crisscross thread which you have seen earlier. And after weaving, the fabric looks like this, which gives high shear strength. And because of these crisscross crossovers, while handling these fabrics, although the structure is a grid structure, porous structure, but yarn does not get shifted from its position, means there is a structural stability. As a result, the fabric gives high tear strength. As you know, tear strength basically due to poor stress concentration, means at any point, whenever there is a tearing takes place, at that point, the tearing propagation is restricted if there are more number of threads to obstruct the tearing. In this fabric, you take any point, you will find not just 2 threads like conventional fabric. Here, everywhere you will find there are 4 threads. So the strength at any point is doubled. And not only 4 threads together, but also the way they interlaced, the binding force at any crossover points gives enough resistance to tearing load. That's why the fabric gives high tearing strength. Because of these structural advantages, this fabric is preferably used to make structural composite material, and those composites are used like cellular yachts, as you can see here, all the body panels, the wind turbine blade, live boats, rotor blade, wind channel blower, sports and leisure time like tennis rackets, skis, snowboards, sports boards, automotive, car body parts, bumpers, reinforcement parts, machine building, fast moving parts, and many. plant engineering like pumping and piping system, container building, even medical sector like orthopedic applications. So mainly as a preform for composite manufacturing. And these are some of the applications where you can see the composites used for these purposes can be, these multi-axial fabric can be used for these purposes. Just to clarify, this is also multi-axial fabric which we have discussed in 3D textiles. If you recall, it's called stitched multi-axial fabric. We are trying to do or get the same advantage here, but it is stitched multi-axial means unidirectional fabric of multi-layers are stitched together, but they are kept in different angle. As you can see here, -40, +40, 90 horizontal, 90 or 0 degree, that is vertical direction, so that you can find out a multi-axial disposition of threads in the combined multi-layer fabric, but they are stitched, they are not integrated. So the biggest advantage which we get by this woven multi-axial versus these stitched multi-axial is delamination resistance. When a composite is made using this kind of stitched multi-axial structure and subjected to any impact loading or flexural loading, then individual layers get separated. We call it poor delamination resistance. But anyway, in the absence of such kind of structures, whether it is 3D fabric or multi-axial fabric, you can achieve these, stitched multi-axial fabric doing more or less similar job, but with less advantage in terms of delamination. Okay, this point I just discussed, this disadvantage. Then there is another interesting, don't look at this table, I will show you the diagram where from you can understand. So this is how the fabric after weaving looks like, and you can understand it comparing what we have discussed last class, how the 3 warp and 1 weft system fabric after weaving looks like. And when we make a tensile test of these fabric, what is the typical load elongation curve of these fabrics, that I want to show you. So these are typical load elongation characteristics curve of multi-axial fabric, both in warp and weft direction. Look at the typical shape, which is different from conventional two-dimensional fabric. In theory of fabric structure, as we have discussed already, if you recall, the typical load elongation characteristics curve of a woven fabric has 3 distinct zones: initial frictional restraint, then a decrimping. At a decrimping zone, the curve tilts towards extension axis, showing low modulus. Whereas, as you can see here, there is no such decrimping zone. Right from the origin, the curve goes straight up. This shows the complete absence of crimp in the yarn. Hence, the modulus can be increased depending on what kind of yarn we are using to make this fabric. So this is the advantage of multi-axial fabric in terms of modulus because of absence of decrimping zone because the yarn does not have any crimp, so there is no decrimping zone, and which is considered as one of the biggest advantage to use this fabric as a preform for making textile structural composite. Okay, and this crisscross I have already discussed, but I want to show you one more advantage of this fabric, that's called tearing strength. Means because of this fabric is used in garment apparel sector, particularly when a garment needs to have high resistance to tear. So although this fabric is not that popular in apparel sector, but it is used only when in some applications the fabric needs to have high tear strength. We have already explained why it gives high tear strength, and wherever in any garment you need high tear strength, then this fabric can be used, particularly in military protective clothing and applications on tennis and other sports shoes and some sports wear where tearing is, there is a possibility of tearing, and in those cases this fabric can be used. So this is all about the multi-axial fabric. So we have covered in last two and this lecture the multi-phase and multi-axial fabric. Then we will switch over to the next chapter, that is home textile. So can you see the change of the slide, home textile? Omender?
No, sir. No, sir.
Home textile is not visible.
Yes, sir. Now visible.
Okay. So these are some of the fabrics come under home textile: bath linen, bed linen, floor coverings, wall hangings, and all furnishing type of fabrics. You know, cottons, sofa covers, pillow covers, uh, like cushion covers, and these are all called home textile. In this, we will discuss one or two only. We will discuss in home textile the terry towel. So this terry towel subject is kept deliberately in this course because of good. Just a minute. Hello. Good afternoon. कौन बोल रहे हैं? So this is because the reason being why this is included here in specialty textile. Terry towel is one of the leading industry of India, and in fact India is one of the largest manufacturer of terry fabric and also largest exporter of terry fabric. So we need to understand what is specialty in this fabric, how it is manufactured, what are its properties, and in what way this fabric structure is different from the conventional fabric we have studied. Terry fabric can be produced both by knitting and weaving. We will discuss only woven terry fabric. So in this, we will discuss its structure, manufacturing, properties, and applications. The fabric is also called sometimes pile fabric. In textile, pile is the raised surface or nap of a fabric, which is made of upright loops or strands of yarn. So when we say the term pile, not only it is a loop, but also strand. Left hand side is a upright loop, right hand side is a upright strand, means cottons. So this is, you can see, projected view of loops is also called pile, and this strand means cut end is also called pile. Pile term can be used for both loop form or thread form. So the word is derived from Latin pilus, means hairs, where from this pile word has come. So you can see some of the applications of pile fabric, both in loop form as well as cut pile. We call it velvet and velveteen. So examples of pile textiles are carpets, corduroy. You must have come across this fabric. Corduroy is very famous. India is also one of the largest producer of the corduroy fabric. Velvet, you can see here, very smooth, slippery surface velvet fabric used for making toys and children garment. Plus structures, these called plus structures used for making toys, and Turkish towel, which we all use as a bath linen. Turkish towel. Okay, they all combined together called pile fabric. As I said, pile can be either a loop or a strand, means cord thread. In towel, the loop lies in this form. And one can always characterize this loop to assess the properties of the fabric, which we will discuss maybe tomorrow, in the next class in detail. Today we will discuss manufacturing part, then structural properties part we will discuss next class. There are so many types of piles: loop pile, uncut pile, cut pile, knotted pile, tufted pile, woven pile, cord pile, twisted pile. So many variety of the pile, all are possible in conventional weaving machines. And a wide range of products. Some of I have already shown you in the picture, but there are large number of structures available in this pile category. These pile fabrics are broadly divided into two types: warp pile and weft pile. Under warp pile, there are three fabrics: terry, floss, and velvet. Under weft pile, two types: velveteen and corduroy. We will discuss only the terry towel, which is called a warp pile fabric. That means the fabric which you use as a terry towel, your bath towel, the loop which is formed on that fabric is a part of your warp yarn, not the weft yarn. So terry comes under warp pile. The towel which you see here, the loop which is formed on its surface, if you project it, which looks like this, is formed by the warp yarn, not the weft yarn. That's why when we classify the pile fabric in two groups, that is warp pile, weft pile, the terry comes under warp pile fabric. The terry fabric is a warp pile structure in which certain warp ends are made to form loops on the surface of the fabric. So this is a clear structural image from where you can make out how these loops are formed and how they look like in the fabric. If you take a magnified view, you will find certain threads, here it is blue threads, are responsible to make the loop on the surface, that is pile, and certain threads which are used inside called ground weave. So both these pile thread and ground thread, blue color and red color, they are woven with or interlaced with weft yarn. The dots are weft yarn. Only difference between two are the ground, that is red color warp, remains under high tension during weaving, so they remain straight. Whereas these pile threads, which is blue color here, they are maintained at a very low tension during weaving, and a mechanism is fitted to the weaving machine to create such kind of loop formation. We will see how this loop formation takes place during weaving. What is the origin of these terry fabric? Terry fabric was first developed in Turkey. You can see some of the figures here. These are nothing but defective cloth. During weaving, a defective fabric is produced due to many reasons. Loose warp, loose weft, missing yarn, cut ends, so many you can see here. So what happens? These are very common defects we come across during weaving, particularly when we use shuttle loom. So earlier, maybe 50 years ago or maybe 100 years ago, when we are weaving fabric on shuttle loom, these type of defects were inevitable. And normally what we do, we cut these defective portion from the main fabric and it goes to waste. So people don't throw it. They use for some other purposes. And this kind of defective piece, when cut from the main cloth length, preferably used for wiping purposes. Wipers, पोछा लगाने के लिए, because their loose structure have very good absorbency. In industry, we use as a wiper so that grease and oil can be cleaned from the machine components. वो भी एक टाइप के पोछा है. घर की पोछा लगाने के लिए as a duster, and wherever you use in household items. Because of its good absorbency, these kind of waste cloths were being used as wiper. This fabric subsequently, or this idea of loose structure subsequently was customized to create a systematic loops in the fabric, producing the fabric called terry fabric. So while producing terry fabric, we just create loops so that the structure becomes loose, creating enough space to absorb water. That means one of the most important property of terry fabric is absorbency. And this idea was subsequently used to make terry fabric, in which we produce these kind of cloth. Since the idea was first implemented in Turkey, people also call it Turkish towel. So, how this terry weaving takes place? Terry weaving is a 3-yarn weaving system. One series of weft and 2 series of warp. As you can see here, this one, look at my cursor. Is, we call it pile warp, and the warp which remain in the ground in the center, we call it ground warp, and dots are weft. So as a whole, this is a 3-yarn weaving system. 2 sets of warp, one is called pile warp and another set is ground warp, and third yarn is weft yarn. These 2 sets of warp yarn, that is ground and pile warp, they come from 2 different beams, pile beam and ground beam. Ground warp and weft form ground fabric, pile warp and weft form loop structure. So, how a traditional terry weave is produced? In traditional terry weaving, by means of a special device, which we will discuss subsequently, on weaving machine, 2 peaks are inserted at a variable distance. See, peak number 1, peak number 2. Initially, these 2 peaks are inserted in a variable distance, means they are not inserted close to the fail of the cloth. This is fail of the cloth. These 2 are consecutively inserted at a distance we call it loose peak, and the distance when we insert a third peak, which is called bit up peak. Look at this third yarn, is bit up peak. This is first loose peak, this is second loose peak, and this is the bit up peak. Why we call it bit up peak? Because after insertion of this third peak, which is called bit up peak, the bit up takes place. And you know what is the role of bit up? Role of bit up is pushing forward the weft yarn to the fail of the cloth. When this bit up peak is inserted and bit up takes place, because the blue yarn and red yarn here, which is pile yarn, they are kept at a low tension in a separate beam, and the green and black, which are called ground warp, they are at a very high tension beam. At this point, when the bit up is taking place, the low tension warp gets buckled to make this loop, whereas high tension warp, they remain straight and accommodate or interlace these 3 weft yarn as you see here, and they join to the main frame of the woven fabric. next to the fell of the cloth. So this structure is formed purely because of the variation in tension in these two different type of warp yarn. The pile warp here in this diagram, the blue and red one, they are coming from a separate beam at a very low tension. Means if you just try to draw this yarn, the beam rotates easily, unwinds the thread without any obstruction. Whereas the ground warp in this diagram, which is shown as green and black, the beam which contains these yarns remain under very high tension. That means when bit up will take place, the yarn gets wound to the yarn remains straight. Simply the weft yarn push forward to the fell of the cloth. The loose thread gets buckled to make the loop like this, and the ground thread remains straight, simply making interlacement to make the ground fabric. This is how the pile or terry loop fabrics are formed. The distance between fell of the cloth and the third bit of pick is called loose pick distance. We will discuss more detail on this little afterward. It's called loose pick distance. Remember, the distance between third loose pick, this is bit of pick, and the fell of the cloth is called loose pick distance. This loose pick distance is responsible to make this loop. That means what will be the size of the loop, the height of the loop, or the shape of the loop depends on this distance. So when bit up is taking place, after insertion of this first loose pick, the bit up is a half bit up. Keep this web thread at a distance, predetermined distance. Where it will be stopped depend on the setting of this reed, so that it will not push forward the weft yarn to the fell of the cloth. It will leave at a distance which is purely dependent on loose pick distance, that is our pile height or loop length. Okay. So the basic principle is the smallest weft group is 3 weft. What does it mean? Look at the diagram. We have kept 2 loose pick, then third is bit of pick. This is the smallest arrangement. We can have 3 loose pick, the fourth one will be bit of pick. We can have 4 loose pick, the fifth one can be bit of pick. So that we call a 3 pick terry, 4 pick terry, 5 pick terry, or 6 pick terry. I repeat it. What you see here in this diagram, there are 2 loose pick. Third pick is bit of pick. This fabric is called 3 pick terry. Similarly, if I keep 3 loose pick, then fourth one is the bit of pick. We call it 4 pick terry, and so on. I'll show you structural diagram of these 3 pick terry, 4 pick terry, and 5 pick terry subsequently. But what the point written here is the smallest weft group is 3 weft, that is 3 pick terry. The pile yarns must be always intersected with the second weft of the weft group. Okay. The warp shading must be closed during bit up of the third peak. When third peak bit up takes place, the shade should be closed so that all the three peaks are dragged or pushed forward to the tail of the cloth to make the fabric formation complete cycle. So this is the diagram of a three peak terry design. You can see here pile 1, ground 1, pile 2, ground 2. F stands for first peak, L stands for loose peak, and these are different color according to this diagram. It is deliberately made so that you can understand which thread what. I will explain it subsequently in a clear diagram when I will discuss this structure. Now, when a towel is formed, it comes in this shape, and these are different parts of a towel. Selvage, if the towel is formed on shuttle loom or tuck-in selvage, on projectile loom, you can have a bound selvage. If it is formed on rapier technology or airjet loom, then it will be a cord selvage. Then in the selvage, it is folded and stitched. But if it is bound selvage, then obviously in shuttle loom or tuck-in selvage formation in projectile loom, we get bound selvage. And during weaving, we decide what will be length of each towel. So after that length interval, there is a gap where there will be no insertion of weft yarn. So it will be cut here, then you will get a fringe. At one end of the towel, we have a border. Normally in this border, how this border is different from this portion, this border does not have any loop. So while this border is formed in a towel, the pile thread means the loose peak first peak mechanism does not work. It is only first peak. So interlacement of warp and weft takes place, and a plain fabric is formed here, which is free from loops. Whereas in the rest of the place, the loop formation takes place according to the mechanism we just discussed. We'll discuss manufacturing part. See here. So most of the towels are produced using cotton yarn. Nowadays, some synthetic or blended towels are also available in the market. So one can use single yarn or even 2-ply yarn to make the towel. The process flowchart is like this. Ground warp, pile warp, and weft. It's a 3-yarn weaving system. So yarn from the spinning, warping, sizing, pile warp also warping, sizing, but there is a difference of sizing of these two yarns, which I will discuss later. Weft yarn does not need any sizing, just comes from the winding department in a cone form, and these threads are drawn by a drafting process on the loom harness, and this is weft yarn. Then weaving takes place. After the fabric is woven, fabric undergoes inspection process, then goes for packing, etc. So yarn used, as I discussed earlier, in terry towel, front side pile warp, back side pile warp. It is not necessarily that we can have a two loops or pile of the same. You can have different type of pile in two sides of the fabric. Even you can have a towel having loop just in one side, other side can be smooth, plain. So both are possible. You can have loop in front and back side. You can have different loop in front and back side. You can have different color. You can have a different count. You can have a different pile height. You can have a different loop structure, top and front and back. And also you can have similar. All the possibilities are there during terry weaving process. Normally, pile warps are of these count 16 and 20, and they are normally single yarn with a very low twist. 240 to 255 TPM, twist per meter, is a very low twist yarn. So this point you have to very carefully remember. Pile yarns are normally single yarn, low twist yarn, because these yarns are responsible for absorbency and soft feel of the towel. If it will be 2-ply yarn, then it will be harsh towel and low absorbency. So normally it does not mean we don't produce 2-ply pile. We produce, but question is, most of the towels are preferred to be produced using single yarn and low twist yarn. This low twist facilitates better absorbency and softness. As I said, sometimes 2-ply yarns are also can be used. Rotor yarns may also be used nowadays instead of ring yarn. Rotor spun yarn can be also used as a pile yarn. Then ground warp. Normally ground warp are 2-ply yarn, comparatively stronger because these yarns remain under high tension. The twist is also very high, almost double of the pile warp. And as I said, during weaving, these yarns remain under high tension, so they need to be strong one. That's why you go for 2-ply as well as high twist. Some towels are produced using polyester cotton blended yarn because anyway these ground warp will remain inside, not on the surface. So this yarn is not coming in direct contact with the skin. That's why polyester cotton blended yarn can also be used as ground warp. Here also one can use rotary yarn. Then weft yarn. Normally weft yarns are carded yarn, but one can use combed yarn also. And weft yarns are single yarn of low twist yarn, because weft does not need to be strong one. Tension in weft yarn is always less than the tension in warp yarns. That's why single low twist yarn can be used. What kind of thread density used in towel weaving? For towel, normally end density is 20 to 30 ends per centimeter. Peak density is 15 to 25 peaks per centimeter. Typical towel. Okay. For border, weft density is increased 3 to 6 times. Remember, for border, the weft density is very, very high, because border means free from loop, free from pile. So high density wet. And what is the ratio of pile to ground warp? It varies depending on what will be the loop density. We can have a towel with very high loop density. We can have a towel with low loop density. If you increase the ratio pile to ground more, then number of loops per unit area on the surface of the fabric will be more. Also, the next point, length of pile warp per unit length of fabric in warp direction. As the ratio increases, the weight and thickness of the towel increases. Because if the ratio will increase, number of loops will increase per unit area. That means the weight of the towel will increase and thickness of the towel will also increase. So weight and thickness depends both on pile ground ratio as well as loop length, that's the pile length. Look at this. If pile length will increase, these loop height will increase. The thickness of fabric will increase and the GSM aerial density, that is weight of the fabric, will also increase. So thickness of towel, weight of towel depends on GP ratio, ground to pile ratio, and loop length, that is loose peak distance. Okay, so this is about warp, weft, and peaks. Now, next is mechanism of terry. In terry fabric manufacturing, two sets of warp thread run simultaneously, as I have discussed it earlier. One is pile, another is ground. Pile is at low tension, ground is at high tension. While preparing the warp for a terry towel weaving, this is very, very important. The sizing carried out for pile warp and ground warp is completely different from the conventional weaving warp sizing. Normally, the pile warp either sized with a very low size add-on or sometimes no add-on, that is zero add-on. The warp yarn is just passed through a hot water bath. The reason is very clear. In normal sizing of warp yarn in conventional weaving, we go for a higher add-on, 8 to 12% of size add-on, so that the abrasion resistance of the warp yarn increases substantially. And also in conventional weaving, the warp yarn remains under very high tension. There is a probability of breakage because of tension and abrasion. In case of towel weaving, particularly in case of pile warp, since the pile warp remains under very low tension and the pile density, that is ends warp thread density, is very, very low compared to conventional weaving. In this case, both abrasion, that is inter-yarn friction, and tension, that is axial tension, are comparatively much lower in the warp yarn, that is in the pile warp yarn, compared to conventional woven warp yarn. So there is no need to go for a heavy sizing. Heavy sizing, I mean the sizing with 8 to 12% add-on, not necessary. We need either only 1 or 2% or maximum 3% size add-on of this pile warp, or sometimes no size at all. Only the yarn is passed through a hot water bath, squeezed, so that some extent the abrasion resistance increases and you can weave these warp yarn without any breakage. Normally, starch PVA blend is a popular size material for sizing the pile warp in terry weaving. After the fabric is woven, they go through the normal process of desizing, etc., and washing. Then tumble drying takes place. The purpose of tumble drying is to give fluffy or bulkiness or softness to the fabric hand. So towel, after scouring, desizing and washing and drying, is normally goes through a tumble drying process to make the towel fluffy, soft feel. Stentering is carried out to set the fabric, that is to eliminate any further shrinkage, and it also helps to remove crease and wrinkles from the fabric. So this is how the tumble drying is taking place. After the towel is woven, when it goes for packing, you can have these kind of marks, that is drying symbol, depending on what kind of towel you are using. Nowadays, lot of specialty towels are produced. Antimicrobial treatment, deodorant finish, soft finish, and many other different type of finishing treatments are given to the towel. Antimicrobial towel particularly for medical applications, deodorant towel for some luxury applications. Although all these finishing treatment have a limited lifetime, it's not that you give an antimicrobial treatment which will continue for 50 washes of the towel. Each of these finishing treatment has a limited life. Some may have 5 washes or 10 washes and like that. But nowadays, all these type of different chemical treated towels are available in the market. Okay, so I stop it here. From next class, we will discuss towel quality and their structure properties. So you can log out.